I'm the inventor of the bee-bender, and you're watching What's the Deal with Speal.
Welcome to What's the Deal with Speal. I'm Shane Speal, and this is my office. If you get the Cigar Box Nation email, you'll see all week we have been posting the runners-up for the Throwback Holiday Build-Off. In a little bit, I am going to announce the grand prize winners. If you've seen the emails that we've sent out with all the runners-up, you'll notice that I've been showing off a lot of antique cigar box guitars at the top of every email. The reason is I have so many of my old guitars that I've been cataloging and digging into the history and posting new photos over at cigarboxguitars.com. Here's one of them now. This was in today's email. This is a 100-year-old 6-string cigar box guitar. As you can see, I've been cataloging and I tag these things for my own reference. Each article at cigarboxguitars.com has all the measurements to these instruments, all the materials they're made of, and as much history as I can dig up. Here's some of the new antiques I just got in, and they're getting weirder and weirder. Now, not all the instruments in my collection are homemade cigar box guitars. I've also been collecting some strange instruments from 100 years ago. And here's one of them. See this? And I got my catalog tag there. This is what's called a self-playing or automatic harp. This instrument was never meant to be played. It was built and strings were added, but it was part of a ritual for the Oddfellows Lodge. I have no idea what the ritual was. There's an Oddfellows Lodge near me. I'm going to be calling them up, and hopefully they can share some information on the history of this. But people would make a pledge or something, and this is supposed to be like David's harp, but it would play itself. Well, the secret is inside each one of these instruments is a music box. So this is one of them, and this is another automatic harp from the Oddfellows. It's like 27 inches long. Look at this thing. It was made and never meant to be played. I just put certain strings on. It was missing strings. This thing actually hung in a barn in, I think, Iowa for years. Somebody discovered it, a picker, and they got it and they cleaned it up and sold it to me on eBay. This also has the music box in there. Spooky, isn't it? Here's a newer guitar that I got, and I got it for the concept because I want to break it down and I want to explore how we could make the same type of thing from CBGs parts. Check this out. This is a wild 12-string acoustic electric guitar. What you have here is 12 strings. Now I have it tuned to a chord that can be plugged in. There is nothing to the body. These sides are just bolted on. You could take these off and it would just be one long 2x4 looking thing. And here's what made me buy it. It has the same preamp and piezo rod pickup system that CBGs sells, which means this is something anybody could build. We have the parts for it. What you do is you make a guitar neck that has a long body, kind of like one of those neck-through guitar necks you could find on eBay or elsewhere, or you can make your own. And all you do is add a CBGs preamp to it, make a little control cavity back there, and do a bridge. And right underneath this bridge is a piezo rod, the same exact ones that Giddy sells. Now I know this because I took it off, I restrung the whole thing. It does play through an amp. I'm not set up to do it right now, but that'll be a later article. This is just me showing you what's to come. So it's a really neat thing. This is just a cheap Chinese instrument. A buddy of mine has a music store. I was in there. It was hanging in the window. I think this is something we need to explore. You guys could be making some really wild acoustic electric instruments with this concept. And finally, I got one more antique, and this is probably one of my favorites in my entire collection. I can't believe I just bought this. This is a violin made from hundreds, if not thousands, of matchsticks. Show this, let you really get a good view of this. The builder took different colored matchsticks and alternated the colors the entire time he built this. Now, matchstick art is something that used to be done in prisons when prisoners had all this time in the world and there was matches because there were cigarettes. And they would just save the matchsticks, cut them, and make everything from picture frames to other things. And every once in a while, someone would make an instrument. Now, this one came from Chicago. I don't know any history on it. What I do know is it's very delicate, and there are separations in the matchsticks. Now, all along the edge here, inside, is a piece of metal that determined the shape of this. And they built it around what looked like a cookie cutter type of piece of metal. The neck was hand carved, and it's just something that I'm going to be digging more into. Look at those F-holes. So this instrument and the Oddfellows instruments and even the crazy acoustic electric 12-string guitar, all of those are going to be profiled over at cigarboxguitars.com. I tried to give this away probably about 5 or 6 months ago. The CBGs Giddy Bucker test guitar that I made. Well, I announced the winner on YouTube and I could never get a hold of the person and they never got a hold of me. So I never got to give this away. So let's give it away again. All right? If you want to win this guitar, it's real simple. Go to cigarboxguitars.com and comment on one of the articles. Between now and, let's say, February 14th, Valentine's Day. So between now and February 14th, 2022, if you leave a comment in any of the articles over at cigarboxguitars.com, and don't be leaving a comment like, I want to win the guitar. No, read the article and give some insight, or even if you have historical information to add to it, I'd love to hear it. But leave a good comment over at cigarboxguitars.com in one of the articles, and you're entered to win the Giddy Bucker test guitar. On Shane's bookshelf, I took your suggestions and I got this book. Oh, yes. Brother Robert by Anya C. Anderson, who was Robert Johnson's stepsister. This is a fantastic read. Fantastic read. And my takeaway from reading this book is one thing, one major thing. That whole thing about Robert Johnson selling his soul to the devil, you've been lied to. It never happened. Robert Johnson was a nice guy. Robert Johnson was a family guy. And he also learned how to play guitar from his stepfather. Boom, there you have it. We've been lied to from Columbia Records and Sony or whoever owns them now. It never happened. He was a nice guy, and he was a serious musician who took his craft seriously. Now, I've read it. I was about halfway through, which covered his whole life. Then it got into how lawyers and other people screwed the Johnson family out of all his royalties, and that's basically when I put the book down. I mean, there's a lot more information in there, but I wanted to know what life was like when Robert Johnson was playing. And it was a lot of his life in Memphis, not the Delta, in Memphis. So, highly recommended. This is a fun read. Brother Robert by Anya C. Anderson, Robert Johnson's stepsister. And don't forget, if you don't have this book, it's time you get it. It's a winter time. It's a time to sit down and read. Making Poor Man's Guitars. I've got autographed copies at stubbyslide.com, or if you want just a straight copy, get one in your next order from cbgiddy.com. So, it's now time. Let's see our 3 grand prize winners for the 2021 Throwback Holiday Build-Off. Grand Prize winner number 1 goes to Thermo King of Belgium. He describes it in a story. It was Belgium, 1916, the First World War. The front line between the German troops and Belgian French soldiers runs straight through Flanders Fields, a battlefield between Newport and Le Pire, which will be fixed for a few years. My grandfather lives along that line. As a child, he lived there with his parents on a small farm in a German-occupied territory. In that area, people were obliged to give shelter to German soldiers. There are also a few German soldiers staying on my grandfather's farm. Grandfather is afraid of those men. They speak a strange language and make a lot of noise, especially when they're drinking. Only Herman will remember grandfather forever. Herman played Teufels Gage and sang very beautifully. On Christmas Eve of that year, my grandfather's mother cooked rabbit with prunes, also for the German soldiers. There was also bread and beer. Out of gratitude, Herman gave my grandfather a guitar. He had made the instrument from what could be found in the destroyed environment. A few weeks later, Herman left and never returned to the farm. Congratulations, Thermo King. Grand Prize winner number 2 is Taffy Evans from North Queensland, Australia. He built this beautiful fiddle, and he said, "The style fits in with early fiddles back in the day before the F-hole was used. This build was not supposed to be a copy or a replica of an old fiddle. It's just what I thought would work, and it does. The neck I made out of New Guinea rosewood, as it had a fiddle back grain pattern found in good violin necks. The pegs are ebony. The fingerboard I made out of a piece of hardwood and stained it. The body is from a packing case that had some interesting figures. As the top is not arched for strength as in a violin, I was unsure of the stability, but it has held up perfectly. I did fit the traditional bass bar brace and used a sound post under the treble leg. Finally, I made a tailpiece out of rosewood and stained it black." And our grand prize number 3 goes to Sam Brown of the United States. This is a 5-string cigar box mandolin. He said, "I built this instrument after being inspired by the 1922 newspaper article, which is included in the Cigar Box Nation free plan section. I changed a few things, such as using an old ukulele tuners instead of hand-whittled pegs. I used real fret wire, a homemade brass tailpiece, different bracing, and a bolt-on neck instead of a neck through construction. Most of this was due to using what I had on hand. After completing the woodworking, I gave the neck a coat of medium brown leather stain and sanded and scraped it to achieve a sort of distressed look. I've never done this before, and I'm quite happy with the results. As it stands, the results are completely playable, and it not only sounds great, but it looks 100 years old. Congratulations to everybody who entered and won the 2021 Throwback Holiday Build-Off from Cigar Box Nation and CBGs.com. So this has been What's the Deal with Speal. My name is Shane Speal. Make sure you comment over at cigarboxguitars.com. Pick an article, read an article, get into it. Give some information if you have more information. Leave a comment between now and Valentine's Day 2022, and you'll be entered to win the CBGs Giddy Bucker Test Guitar. My name's Shane Speal. Thank you so much for watching, and stay primal.